between Bill and I.
I don't see anybody else coming, but I wanted to, the letters you got in the mail, I wanted to kind of see if you could spread the word about that. When I called, our residential rate is about for 2,000 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Todd Swanson, and the Public Service Commission said we had to do it as an average. So I said,
average
And they show it like
customers?
wait a minute, no, that's not what
Average
you charge.
consumption.
Just let me finish
Yeah,
what I was
let
gonna
her
say.
Okay.
This had to be wrote out as an average of all customers.
That's what, yeah,
So 3788 is the average of all 271 customers.
okay.
And that's the raise as that. So I told him, as soon as we mail this letter out, I said, we go at 2,000.
Yeah.
And I said, can you give me something to tell the people? Because that don't make no sense to anybody.
Yeah.
And he said at 2,000 gallons, it would be a $14.30 increase, which would be 51%.
Yeah.
And he said he would explain anything else that needed explained on January 8th. But I even said, could I put that on there? He said I couldn't change anything about this letter because it comes from the Public Service Commission.
Well, at any rate, it's gonna be almost 51%, no matter what amount you use.
Yeah, but he said
Can do
for
that.
2,000 gallon, it was gonna be $14.30. Because I even told him, could I change this because we're gonna have a meeting at the Legion. He said I could not change anything about this letter. That we would have to put a notice on the door that it's gonna be at the Legion. But this came from them, and they told us we had to have it mailed, we had to have it postmarked by December 20th to go out to every customer.
Who did that
Todd
call?
Swanson from Steptoe Johnson.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I called him. I said, when they see this, I said, first thing I saw was 3788. I said, we go by 2,000 gallons.
Yeah,
Can you give
I
us
kind
some-
of figured myself to figure that's what it was because it
Did
was
you
an
know
odd
it's
number.
average? Yeah.
It was an odd number.
And he said they go do an average of all customers.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, can you give me a breakdown on 2,000 so I can try to explain to people? Because I know people's going to ask questions. I asked.
It makes it easier to compare,
And
yeah.
he said it would be a 14,
We're used to seeing it compared to
30,
Thanks.
and it would be 51%.
That's good.
Paperwork says 60, 90 days.
This is pretty much
Did you hear back from Susie? She said she was going to try and make it, right? I can't be apologized.
Did you see that?
Working on that line up there.
I know. I didn't know if you saw that one.
Actually, through that little hill going down toward the left. Yes, we have a pipe set between the Barn Bridge and Hollywood. We got all kinds of wood pressure there too on the bridge. It'll actually come up out of that standpoint.
So are we still going to say anything, or? Yeah, you mentioned that we had obtained some documents, and the reason was, September 25th especially, a lot of citizens came to a meeting and asked for a lot of very specific information about what's going on with the project and all that. And we didn't see it, and it's getting very close to this next meeting. So on Monday, I put in a Freedom of Information Act request, which I don't like having to do that. Those things should be posted on the wall. I shouldn't have to make Phil go through the whole thing. She has to then file it with the state too. It makes a whole job for her. I don't want to give her that. And these are things that if these have been available since they came out in July, we would all have had a chance to look at it and really look it over and see that these engineering studies and contracts don't fit what we want at all in town, I think. And I think everyone at the last meeting said no one wants to go to Westernport Water. And from everything I can see from reading the hundreds of pages in this, and I've been reading it since I got these, is that we have more time than they say, and that they've exaggerated on how much our Savage River water line is going to cost to repair, and they have exaggerated on the low side of how much it's going to cost us to go over to Westernport. All those things I think are true, and so we really need to talk about this and think about it. We have time. Obviously we're not going to do that second reading tonight. We can't. There's not enough people, but so we still have weeks. We don't have days or hours. We have weeks. And the big thing that I found in reading all that really I thought was important for all of us to realize, it's not like we have forever, but October 2020, the water line is not getting shut off. I can guarantee you that from what I've seen in their documents from Dunn Engineering. And when they tell us that the water is being shut off October 2020, that's not true. If it was true, then Piedmont would be without water for 10 months while this project goes. Because they're not even advertising for bids until September of 2020. Then October comes, the water shuts off supposedly. They award the construction contract in January of 2021, and then they're supposed to complete it August 2021. 10 months after the water is supposed to shut off. So somebody's going to be guaranteeing that we have water still turned on for 10 more months while this whole thing goes on. So if we have 10 more months than they've been telling us, we have 3 months, say, to really check out the Savage line and make sure that that's not an option. And I don't think there's really a good reason to not look at that. But I did a quick figure on it. They told us we have to replace 7 miles of water line up there. For one, I went on the map and traced every curve of that river all the way down here, and I had to stretch to get 4 miles. It's 7 up to the reservoir, probably. So they're using figures. Obviously, no one really studied that. They just rejected the possibility of using the Savage water line, saying replacing the existing raw water line would involve approximately 7 miles of repairs. So somebody pulled that number out of somewhere besides a factual place. And they say it would cost us $2.775 million to replace that water line with 6-inch line, which we have 10-inch actually. So the numbers are wrong anyway. But just by quickly looking at it, if we decided we only wanted to replace 4 miles of line, 2.53 miles, if we replace 2.5 miles of line, this whole project comes in at $1.2 million, which is $20,000 less than us going over to Westernport. And we have our own water. We have 2.5 miles of the water line to our water source, brand new. Not the whole thing, but we could probably pick and choose which 2.5 miles, pick the worst ones. This gets us, so this is something I think should seriously be considered.
And where's the funding gonna come from?
It's same place. They have, there's nothing in here that says, can I please finish, is that all of these scenarios, including us keeping our water, include the $1.2 million grant for our water plant and our water lines to help upgrade that. There's nothing in here that says that there's an urgency to go to Westernport's water. In fact, there are a lot of problems with it they don't discuss. One is we're required in the state of West Virginia to have drinking water that meets West Virginia state standards. Mm-hmm. When we get potable, quote, potable water from Westernport, we're getting Maryland potable water that I don't think anybody in West Virginia would guarantee it in a Maryland water plant. So it's going to have to go to a full water treatment plant here. Even if you only have to barely tweak it, you're going to have to be fully certified, and we're going to have a plant. But the other thing, my last thing on this all needs to be discussed. I'm not saying I'm right on any of this. I'm just saying it's very interesting, these figures, how they work out, that it looks like they made it look very expensive for us to go to the Savage for some reason. And they discount the fact that going to Westernport, it's $1.05 per 1,000 gallons now. And they've already told us, Terry Lively told us, that'll go up immediately. That'll go up to more. And say, what if somebody does move in here, like a brewery moves in and says, we'd like 10,000 gallons a day for a brewery. Westernport's going to say, hell no. They're basing this, I think, on a declining usage from us. They're not planning on us increasing our usage ever. So we're sealing our fate for the future. And this is about the future of Piedmont. And Ernie showed me some more licenses here. He has his water system operator license for the state of West Virginia.
Right.
So you are the one that would certify our water. You can't.
So is there,
Has been.
and also a sewer operator.
And sewer. So we
don't
don't
wanna
need
lose you,
them.
Ernie.
We
We love
don't
you.
need them.
We love you,
have
Ernie.
him. Anyway, I just think this is really a big thing for the future of Piedmont. That if we give up our water source, we've read a lot of articles about this. Towns that give up their water source and buy water from somewhere else, they end up regretting it later. And there's an article we didn't copy. We'll bring it in copies of it. It's a really good article about another small town, and you'll see so many parallels about how they've made a lot of choices that we have ahead of us, and they made the wrong choice, ended up costing them millions to buy back their water rights, and then they were finally that. So let's think really hard before we jump into.
Like I said, I'm
The
sick to
thing.
my stomach thinking about this whole
Oh
thing.
no,
I'm
and there
telling
may be
you.
a way out, Paul. There may be really.
But like I said, the funding agency told us the money was
I know,
for
that's-
that and that.
No, that's almost extortion. It really is. They can't tell us that. They can't force us to take that. We can get another. We need some other engineer opinion, and we need
Well,
another
it's just
CPA
not the
opinion.
engineer.
No, it's a funding
I actually
agency.
was with Ben when he was talking to the director of
Well, there's
IJDC.
something wrong that they're doing that to us. I
And
think.
the gentleman sit there in the office and I'm sitting there and I hear it with my own ears.
Mm-hmm.
We are tired of giving Piedmont money to fix up their junk.
But they'll still have to give us money to fix up our water distribution system and our sewer system. That won't end. It won't even change that much according to their own figures. Our water plant costs don't change much from the Westernport scenario.
But
It
now,
changes. They had it changed only by $29,000, which happens to be the cost of the raw water we'd have to buy from them before any increases.
now to let you all know, Paula and the council has had me to have my guys up there. We've done cleaned the intake out. We've got water down to the Iron Bridge. We got water down to Frog Hollow, but we can't get it to come up from Frog Hollow over that little rise there down toward the plant.
They're locked.
So if we did this, my number 6 alternative, which is the cheapest one yet, I would be able to give you $1 million out of that to use just to fix our pipeline that we need. We'd have $1 million beyond what they're saying, getting the same grant and the same other funding that they were going to give us. And they're trying to steer us into Westernport. We don't know why. We can't say why. It may be the easiest thing for them to get a grant for, whatever, but even if they lose that grant money, we shouldn't let them hold that over us. If we lose that 100% grant, well, we'll get an 80% grant to cover our savage water and we'll keep our water rights. And in 10 years from now, believe me, we will be very glad we kept it. And in 10 years from now, we'd be so sorry we were on Westernport, I think. So I think there's
How do we
time.
cross a river?
Pardon?
How do we get it across a river?
The bridge, which they've now told us we
wooden
can't
bridge?
use.
What's that?
The iron bridge, right? It's
The
an
new
iron.
project's gotta go under the river.
Oh, under
Under the river.
That's
under which?
that's what's
Where we're
Westernport.
talking about different things. Yeah, the
Tunnel.
Westernport one, they're going to drill under the river to connect us to Westernport.
No, but if you're using your Piedmont line, and I'm not overly familiar with it, we still gotta cross the river to get it into Piedmont, right?
On this
How is it gonna cross the river?
on this
Tunnel.
bridge behind the old
Current
school,
bridge,
right?
you're talking about the current water line,
Yeah,
goes across the, temporary
Across Wooden Bridge.
the wooden bridge.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to get off of.
I know, but
Versa
We got an
wants you,
easement,
Versa wants us off it, but I don't think they legally can throw us
no,
off
they
it.
got an easement,
We have an easement, so we
city
can
got an
keep it.
easement for it.
We really think we might have
No
them
way
on
they
that
can
too.
make
And
it.
if we do have that, and even Ben Smith was admitting,
But without
that
those,
wasn't an
does
obstacle.
the easement stay in place when the company goes?
yes,
They don't have to guarantee
Yeah.
it?
That,
they would, I think, if we're
with it. Yeah.
They have to guarantee, the other
Yeah,
company would
and-
have to guarantee the easement?
When
yeah,
they bought it, they bought
yeah,
everything
it would
that
be no
goes with
different,
it.
Paul, than you having a piece of property and
Yeah,
give
they-
somebody an easement and you sold that property to Rick. He's got to honor that easement.
You've got to honor it.
Yeah.
And there is an easement for that.
And I know,
so if we have that
like I
list,
said, you know, the local people up here is harping about getting that line off that bridge, but
You don't have to.
I don't.
I think that's
You need to correspond, have an attorney correspond
even
with
Ben Smith.
corporate.
Even Ben Smith.
Well,
said-
Ben, yeah, Ben,
He
I
said
don't
the
know who
last
Ben talked
time.
to, but he did say he found out that once it was there 10 years, which I don't know if they consider that a quick claim or not. But being it's been there that long,
And it's our only one.
adverse possession or something. You know?
yeah,
One
that's
of those
exactly
things.
what it's
Mhm.
called, adverse possession. Yeah. But I can guarantee you that when that line was put in there, that was Westvaco before they merged with me.
And so,
And
I can
there
say,
was, I guarantee you, they was, I never said this before, but see, the mill benefited from that line there because that was their water source for their clarifier. And it's also their water source for their fire system and receiving over there.
It was also, our line was fed to 6 and 7. They had a fire line there that come off right there behind the Devon Club.
You know, so they had a benefit to our water line, and that's why. What's
I
that?
thought they were supposed to be paying us some money.
It was that was a mutual
Well,
thing
they
between
wouldn't be.
Westvaco
Right.
and that line and us, because we give them water a lot of times. And the same with Westernport. We give Westernport water many times when we had the old Iron Bridge. We cut them in every time they was short, which was quite often, you could talk to Marcus, we cut them in right up there where you go on the bridge. There was a big water valve where it turned on that 6-inch line going over.
And
And that fed,
most of the
that
time when
fed
they
them
did
because
that.
they used to feed the clarifier. down here.
PRC.
Well, see, it takes a lot of water to do that.
Mhm.
See, when Westvaco put that new sewage line in on top of the old sewage line, this was what they called the sanitary sewer line. They put a water line in with that, which cut Westernport out, see?
Yeah.
So they didn't have to have them anymore, because Westernport, the biggest user they had was up Potomac River Commission.
There was many times that they used our raw water for that clarifier
Yeah.
up there, that it actually
See, our line could
it pulled water from our
You know,
plant.
I found
Yeah,
a
see, our water
document.
line wasn't 20 feet from them, from
Yeah.
that clarifier where it comes across there.
I found a report from 1950, where it shows Piedmont's still on the Savage Water Line, and it says that the mill is using 400,000 gallons a day of the raw water before it comes to Piedmont. So that line was flowing enough to supply that and us, with us having 2,500. Now we have 700 people maybe. So even if that line is leaking, that was another calculation I did back of the envelope, was if that water line from up there is leaking 75% of its water, which is, most water lines probably not leaking that much, would you say? I don't know, 75%, if it's only 25% of it getting through, that should be more than enough for us right now.
We need to start.
So even a leaky straw up to the Savage is good. So let's hang on to that. Let's try to hang on. I'm working hard for it. I really am. I spent all weekend on this. I'm reading every page because I want to save it. I think we can. But we have to really.
Oh, I don't know if you know
We're
this.
trying to find help wherever we can. We're asking
You know,
everybody.
and look at what Westernport did, and we ain't even used a drop of their water yet, and look how many times they changed it and what it changed to. And that's not going to stop, I don't think.
No, and it's going to go up right away as soon as we get on there. We know it.
Well, I don't know if you know or not, or Ernie knows. I know that probably 50 or 60% of that grant money that you're going to get was a result of the mill closure. And now, would they not let you use some of that money for our, because it's basically was to use to establish a water system for us, would they not allow us to use that to repair our raw water line?
They told us at that meeting when they granted it that it would be to go onto Westernport. Because that was
IJDC?
the most feasible avenue to
Was that
use.
IGDC meeting or something? Yeah. So
No, when
But
they,
they
we have to
also based
question
it on
that.
the 7 miles.
They did.
They
We
compared the
I think
scenarios.
one thing that we're not used to here, because IJDC has helped this town. We've been here long enough to see how much they do. We know we're not saying anything about them, but they might not know exactly what's best for the town in this case, and they might not have gotten all the right information and what a number of things. But I think it's okay as a town for us
Say
to
no.
push back against the IJDC. I don't think they can force us to sign that contract. I don't think they can. And I think if they
can't
don't,
force us,
I
but
don't.
they can take the money back.
They can, but then I think they have to still try to help us with our water. If they said they put this whole package together of $3 million, because 1.2 million of it we get regardless of whether it goes to Westernport or Savage or stays on the Potomac. They were budgeting this 1.2 million for our water plant and our pipes and our hydrants. We get, and the meters. We get that no matter which plant. And they didn't really make that clear. They made it sound like only if you go to Westernport you get that other package. But the studies all show 5 different options. And the first one being stay where we're at, which isn't one. So there's 4 different choices, 4 different ones. And most of us weren't aware there were 4 being looked at. One's the Savage, one is a well, going to a well. There's actually a possibility of that, but there is groundwater contamination around here. We might not want to try to rely on a well, but maybe for backup, maybe for the pool, maybe for something like that. And that was another thing too, is that maybe we talked about filling the pool from the Potomac. We should set that up, because I'll bet you that would reduce the load on our water plant
And the
significantly,
chemicals.
because we're putting drinkable water into the pool, which we probably don't need to. We can put, like you said, we could treat Potomac water safe for the pool. No one should be drinking that. And then we'd be taking that much load off of the water system. It might, the amount they're showing us that we're losing isn't lots. It's not lots. It's like, it's tens of thousands. We might be able to make it up just with our own improvements. And so we haven't even had a chance to offer that back and say, look, we'll make a plan for our pool to go on Potomac water, and then we'll do this and that.
That's
and
what I said, they could
you know.
hopefully still work a line up to do the pool plus the fires and
Yes,
fire hydrants.
So if we, maybe we stick a tank down by the pool and we fill it with Potomac water for fires and for the pool.
So I don't know how
You know,
you
that would
do
be something to do in the future. And then we always have that pool because we always can run it from the Potomac. It's never even an issue having to do with our water anymore. Separate that off, the pool then is
Well, that
permanent.
pool's gonna stay there, I don't care
Yeah,
if I
well-
have to have 10 dinners a month, we're gonna have that pool every
Well, let's figure out how to do it, you know, so that it all works out.
It's
And I-
easy to say that.
It's easy to
man.
say.
We-
It's
so-
easy to say, but it's
Well, we
also
gotta
what
tell
happens,
them we
Paula.
need another plan.
This stuff came out. A lot of it came out in February. We've known about. They wanted us to go on the Westernport water before the mill closed. So either they had a heads up on it. February is when this report came out that says go to Westernport, and they were saying it over and over in there.
They're
They
trying
saying
to
it-
force it.
and then they were saying to the raw water system. They were still saying we're going to connect to the raw water. But they said that as far back and maybe further, but in this document, February, mill wasn't closed yet. They hadn't even, no one had a clue. So for them to tie this into the urgency of it because of the mill closing is wrong.
Well, we need other outside
And we do have,
consultants.
and I think, if, it's a big if we have that bridge, it really is. It's sounding pretty good though, like we might. So if, and we'll get lawyers, we'll get whoever needs to check it out. If we have that bridge, we're very close to having water from the Savage right now.
Cheaper too.
And for a lot cheaper. In fact, if you don't put any of that pipeline between here and the reservoir, and just do the rest of it, $199,000 is all this project cost that they say it would cost to hook us back up to Savage.
What about all the meters and stuff?
That's included in the other part. That's in the 1.2 million that is included in each package. They show it for every one of the packages. This is the common cost that all get this other grant that covers your improvements to your water system, which you need regardless of where you get your water. So I think it's very interesting. I think there's more in here offering us than that they're saying. They want us to go that way. Maybe they have already done a lot of the work, and part of this is because we didn't get to look at this in February. And this is why when we get a document like this, it should be online, it should be on the table, it should be somewhere where people can look at it, because Pat might have looked at it, I might have looked at it and said, wait a minute, back in February, he said, we're not really wanting this, instead of this far down the line when they're now saying it's urgent, but then their own document says it's not as urgent as they say. So let's take all that information and just digest it,
They
because
say
I don't
no
know if
water, go to
I don't know if I'm
Westernport.
100% right, I am no
Yeah.
lawyer for sure.
On January 8th,
Right.
we'll all be there to answer your
Correct.
questions.
Yes, and I'll have even
have all
more,
that
I'll have it
information.
organized nicely, and
Do you
we'll,
know who that?
we'll even maybe have something to hand out to people. and
Water
maybe we should
line off
try to
there.
meet before.
The wooden bridge, I don't know, but 3 times the mill manager told me, Greg, eventually that bridge got to come down,
Yeah.
which bothers me because of the access from,
Yeah, from getting out of
When
town.
you're
That's why they
But
want
the
us to
mill
go to
manager,
Westernport.
mill manager isn't the
Gary Howe
authority
was trying to
over.
buy the
Bridge
bridge.
down.
Yeah.
Well, we already have an easement, we shouldn't have to buy it.
Well, I'm just
Wow.
saying,
I
if
know.
they want to tear it down,
Right.
Gary Howe said to try to people
Buy
to
it or
purchase
something.
it from
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
because that's an access out of town.
Yeah.
See that bridge? The reason we was allowed to put that line on that bridge was because it was West Vaco wanted the old iron bridge tore down.
Yeah, they bought Cromwell Street.
Yeah.
They closed the
So
street
that's why
Likely
they
closed
allowed
several.
us to do that.
Yeah.
In fact, the mill maintained that line for us across that old iron bridge, and these jobs they had, the old lead, you had to do the old lead repairs on the other.
who do we think's gonna guarantee the water in October?
What's that?
We don't
I
know.
don't know, but apparently the engineers think there's someone who's guaranteeing it.
If they
Because
said
their
it's
plans
until
go,
2021.
their plans don't give us water till August of 2021.
That
So
project.
they know something we don't know or something.
Problem I'm hearing, and I'm been bouncing between the 3 towns for my got workplace in Westernport, the mill's in Luke. And that is that the 75,000 Verso's putting up for Westernports to run their line to Luke. They agreed to put that money up to back that November date up 3 months.
75,000.
75,000. That's what wasn't in the grant.
Oh, okay.
The grant money's there. but they agreed to put the other 75,000 up, that project's done in
They should do the
June,
same for us.
not in
They're
October.
getting a pipe over from Westernport.
It's gonna go from up on Grove Miller Road, up on the county where the tank's at, reservoir's at. It's gonna come across the top of the mountain. Luke has a reservoir up on the hill.
Right.
It's gonna go to there. Once that's done, they're trying to say, we're pulling the plug. That's it. We're out of the business. But that 75,000 was to move that October date back to June. That's why they agreed to pay.
Okay.
Don't know how much truth there is to it, you know. Right now, there's no corporate people I've seen that's been involved. This is mill manager who, you know, just refrain.
See, that's
We need to be
That's
involved in
been
that.
our-
We do, gotta.
That's been our issue is to try to get our raw water line in service, get it running, so if the mill does say, hey, in October, we're shutting our.
Then they should help
You
us,
know, we're
right?
shutting our operations down.
See, and I don't know whether you can force the mill to say, hey, yes, you are gonna supply. I don't know that. I'm not a lawyer, but what
Well,
options do you
may be
have?
able to, everything we've
Probably
seen.
would have
could.
to go to court.
They would,
Probably
they would
Be
be
a
more,
court order, but
I would think
We
they
can
would
just
have
roll
more of a right to
Being they
force
supplied for 10
Westernport's
years,
raw
they
water
would- They could probably.
to supply,
see, they're, see them,
Which is,
as opposed to the mill.
as opposed to the potable water, you mean? Because Westernport's telling us they won't sell us raw water. They'll only sell us treated
Well,
water.
I asked their attorney at their meeting,
Yeah.
when I asked him, I
Who's
said, okay,
Westernport's attorney?
what's that?
Who's attorney?
Town of
Town
Westernport,
of
when I went to their meeting, because they said, listen, and they showed me the paper that says, we are a regional supplier of potable water. I said, okay, that's what it says, that's what it says. Does that cross state lines? Well, we believe so. I don't care what you believe. Does that cross state lines? Does that make you a regional potable water supplier across West Virginia? I know they're tied into Frostburg.
Right.
They can feed Frostburg, they can feed up the creek, but no one's telling me, does that include crossing state lines? I don't know that.
I don't either, but if you're a utility supplier, utilities would be water, electric, sewage.
But
It
the
could be
mill is our
anything.
utility
Well, their
provider
point
right
is
now.
that it doesn't say they're a water supplier, they're a regional potable water supplier.
Well,
That's why they say
But
they
that
don't have to
isn't-
give
but
you.
water is a utility.
That's why they won't give us raw water.
Yeah,
Waterworks, yeah.
They say.
that's why I'm going to all three meetings to bounce back and forth to see, okay,
Thank you.
this can be best for me.
But didn't the mill say that there are water utility? Didn't they, in that thing in that report?
They,
that
they
said
are
that
being called, Verso is being called our water utility right now for, in legal description, I think, in this. They are currently acting as our water utility, so we probably have protection from Public Service Commission regarding anything they do, cutting that water off.
But there's never been a contract
No.
signed between
Well-
Verso and the City of Piedmont now.
I
The other
wouldn't be
problem
so-
he's gonna
I
run
wouldn't
into-
be so sure to say that there wasn't something
Yeah,
signed
yeah.
about, is that bridge up there or not?
Yeah.
You know, as far as the
I would
bridge
almost
turned out,
guarantee you with
as
West
far
Vaco,
as
the way they
water,
were,
we had a mutual agreement where we give them water. I mean, that
And
was,
I don't know, because like I
Yeah.
said, I'd have to see something in writing that says,
yeah. I would
okay, this
think-
is what we will
Like
do.
I said,
this is
they
what
used to
we won't
maintain
do.
our pump part.
The problem I'm having right now is you can't find anything in the SEC filings that says Verso still owns that mill.
is that right?
When they sold them other mills, we can't find anything because we know there's gonna be new owners taking over. New shareholders. Atlas Blue Wolf's gonna take over the next board meeting.
What'd they do?
What's that?
What did they do, that company that's taking?
They're an investment firm. They tried to buy them before, we negotiated a contract with them before. Verso spent about 18 months trying to put the fixings to them, but they got the majority of the stock. So they're gonna end up taking over the board meeting. But even that, they've talked about every mill with Luke. There's no, there's no evidence of who the hell owns this right now.
Interesting. So I say we just
Well,
ask
that
for
would be a
some
good
time.
thing,
We
and
say,
everybody
we say, you
can
know
do
what? Slow down, put the brakes on a little bit. Is it really that if this grant expires, then you know what? We might have to let it expire. And it sounds scary because it sounds like free money, but it is not free. It's not free at all. And most of that money that's coming from the grant doesn't come to Piedmont at all. It goes into some work done for us, but we don't see a dime of it.
Yeah.
So really, a lot of other people, when you look at how much, I mean, I'm an engineer, I know how much I used to make. The engineers get paid a lot, but boy, do they budget a lot for the engineers. They have one living here for 2 years. It'll cost $160,000 to have the engineer live here for 2 years during the project. $160,000, our whole pipeline connection up there is $200. So let's not waste it on that, if we can help it.
We
So
just need to look it over.
we just
again,
need some
that's
other
all.
opinions, we need some other people to look at this if we can. I'm working on it as much as I can. I'm only one guy. I'm doing what I can. I'm not a lawyer, like I said, but I know a lot of things. I know how to get a hold of people. I've talked to a lot of people too. I've talked to people in the PSC and other places to try to find out what we can do. And they're all saying, you have recourse, you have things you can do. This isn't gonna, nothing can, it's not a runaway train, but it's gonna be really hard. How are we gonna tell Region 8, we don't
We
want
need
it?
a plan.
I think we need to
Even
tell them,
if it's
we want a
70-30,
better
then
deal.
don't
We
you
want,
think?
we want.
Even if it's 70-30, we have to pay 30%.
I don't
I'd rather pay my extra water than we paying to Westernport to our town.
Yeah, let's not let the 100% grant be the carrot that makes it look like this is a good deal. So I think we beat this up enough, but let's keep hope. Let's keep hope, because I think we can keep our independence as a town and keep our water supply, and it'll be good.
And if it does turn around,
And there'll be
our town-
money for that too, but man, we have to work hard to get it, because they pushed us into a corner on this. But thanks to everybody for at least listening and talking about it a little bit. We needed to, these seemed like important facts that haven't been aired yet.